This week we're going to talk about the four partners. I've mentioned this subject a number of times. I just wanted to elaborate on it a little bit more. As far as I'm concerned, the critical four partners of a company are the employees, the customers, the environment that we're in, and by that I mean the materials that we require in order to make our product or if there's a service. And finally, and not unimportantly, the shareholders. So those are the four partners that I talk about integrating all the time. Now, in order to act as an ethical manager, there is a singular basic question that every one of us needs to answer. And that is, do we need the honesty of another person or another individual in order for us to be honest? By that I mean, if the other person is deceptive or dishonest or tricky, does that mean that I have to now become deceptive, tricky, and dishonest? And that's at the core of many decisions, that type of question. You know, in the movie Star Trek, famous scene where Spock is sacrificed his life in order to save the crew. The famous line that he says to Kirk from behind this glass wall that has him in this totally polluted chamber is, "The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few." The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Each of us is given the ability to be responsible. We have a choice as to whether we take that need to be responsible and honor it or cast it aside. As an ethical leader, if you need other people to be ethical first, you'll never be an ethical leader. Because there always will be some common denominator that is less ethical than you. So the best model that you can adopt is, if the newspaper were going to come out tomorrow with my picture on the front page, what do I want it to say about me? Not about the other person, because I don't care about what it says about the other person. I care about what it says about me. For example, many people believe that philanthropy is the ultimate ethical behavior. You know, giving away money to charity. Star Foundation, the Children's Wish Foundation, Cancer Research. Let's give money to all these different organizations and many, many more. Is that ethical behavior? That may totally be unethical behavior. Why? Because if I am to consider the needs of my partners before the needs of this charity, which is not my partner, I would have to at the least ask them what they think. Maybe they don't want me to give money to the Wish Foundation. Maybe the employees need to have bathrooms that are updated. And instead of giving $100,000 to the cancer research, I should be giving $100,000 to fix the toilets. I have to conduct my decision making in that way. I'll just tell you a quick story. A friend of mine had a big factory in Montreal, 3 floors. They were renovating the factory and they were putting on a 4th floor because business was exceptional. So when it came to building the fourth floor, I mean, they knew what they had to put in terms of production and equipment and everything of that sort. But now there was an opportunity to install an air conditioning system, which they did not have before because the building, when it was originally built, there was no air conditioning put in. So now they have the opportunity to put air conditioning in. Approximately 1,000 women worked in this factory, sewing different garments. What would you do? Would you put in the air conditioning? Most people ask them that question. It's like, of course. Sure, let me give the employee something. But they didn't do that. They didn't do that. I'll give you another question. It's a famous ethical dilemma called the Heinz ethical dilemma. Man's wife is suffering from an incurable disease. Well, it's curable, but it's a horrible disease that'll kill her. He hears that there's a pharmacist in town who has discovered what appears to be the cure. He goes to the pharmacist and he says, I'd like to buy this pill for my wife because she's got this disease. The pharmacist says it's $8,000 for the pill. The guy says, whoa, that's a lot of money. I don't have $8,000. Can I write you 5 checks over the next 5 months for the $8,000? Nope. I need the $8,000 up front, or don't bother asking for the pill. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. Guy walks out. What can he do? Comes back, goes to his family, tries to get the money. He can't come up with more than $4,000. Goes back to the pharmacist and says, look, I got $4,000. Let me give you a check. Let me give you 5 checks, $800, and you'll have the other $4,000 over the next 5 months. I need to save her life. No. You got the $8,000. Come back and see me. So the ethical question is: should he steal the drug? Now, most people have this whole discussion about this. Should he steal the drug? Yes, no, yes. All kinds of conditions come in about this question. The one thing that nobody mentions in any of the classes is ask the wife. What does she want? She's a partner in this. If he steals the drug and he gets caught, so she doesn't get the drug, she may die alone, he goes to jail. What if they have kids? Now their kids are basically orphaned. Ask the wife. That's what an ethical person would do. Similarly, with my buddy in his factory, he called all the women, or he called a group of the women together. He said, look, this is what we're doing. This is what we'd like to do for you. Is that what you want? They talked about it. They thought about it. They came back to him a month later. They said, you know what? We've all talked about it. We voted on it. We would rather you did not put in the air conditioning system. Why? Because if you put the air conditioning system in, it's possible that when we come from the hot summer weather into the cold air-conditioned temperature, we'll get sick. And if we get sick, we won't be able to come to work. And if we can't come to work, then we won't get paid as much money. So we'd rather be able to come here and come to work and do our jobs than sit in air-conditioned comfort. However, what we would like, that would be very helpful, are if you could install the overhead fans and maybe some other fans to just circulate the air, so at least it's not sort of sitting on us. And that's what he did. Saved him $250,000 for the air conditioning, which he was willing to spend because they were his employees and he loved them. When we have partners, that's what we're talking about. I've mentioned the company Starbucks before. Starbucks is not a company that says, we're not interested in making any money. Oh my gosh. They have profit goals that they expect to meet, but they also want, quote unquote, everybody to live their values. They want people to be able to come to work and be the same people that were sitting at home in the suburbs of Seattle, with the same values and the same beliefs and the same ability to help people. That's why they match the donations, they support the farmers, they report in a social utility format, they give health care to the part-timers, and etc., etc., etc. They're doing that in order to nurture a culture and to nurture an environment that recognizes their employees as a key partner in the success of the company. Now, there's no such thing as a perfect system. There's always going to be bad apples. That's without a doubt. But there is absolutely no question, if you look at the data, and if you look at all the different companies that I'm going to be talking to you about, if you look at them and understand that ethical management creates more successful results on many levels most of the time. And since your responsibility as a manager is to approach the ethical dilemma and the corporate challenge as making the most amount of money, being an ethical manager just plain and simple makes sense. Now, one of the things I want to talk to you about is, as an ethical manager, how do you actually process-wise deal with those issues? So there are 5 steps that apply to every single problem you can encounter in the business world. And you just have to apply the same 5 steps and you'll come up with wise results. You must be able to define what the issue is. Defining the incorrect issue leads to the incorrect solution, obviously. If you recall the story with Coca-Cola and the taste tests with Pepsi in the late 1980s, and the fact that Coca-Cola, as a response to the fact that every taste test gave Pepsi the #1 slot, changed their formula, and then found out that they lost $300 million in less than a month because people didn't want the new Coca-Cola that was sweeter. They wanted their same old Coke, otherwise they could drink Pepsi. So you have to be able to define the issue properly. We've just been talking about stakeholders. You have to be able to now identify stakeholders, the partners, and how they are affected by the situation that you've just defined as the issue. So if you recall the story that we did with the sadhu, I think it's actually coming up. So the sadhu is a character who could die on the top of the mountain. That's how he's affected. So that's what we're talking about. How are you affected? The third thing you have to develop are, what are the key descriptive facts and why are they important? Now, a descriptive fact is not a normative fact. It's not an opinion or a feeling or an insight or no matter what you think. It's observable information that you get from the particular situation that you're in. Text messages, emails, video camera footage, whatever you've got as descriptive information and facts. Once you have these three bits of information, you have the entire story. What's wrong? Who's involved? What happened? Then you have two management issues to deal with. What are the reasonable options? Because you may have two or three different choices, or four or five, that can resolve this issue. And which one are you going to do from an ethical perspective? Ethics, as you know, is a study of morality. So you will have had to have figured out what the moral implication is of this particular issue that you're dealing with. Once you've done that, you then can tackle any company, any problem, any issue, and give an ethical response to that situation.